firstly. So my name is Bradley Martin. I'm the State Director here for South Australia as a part of Alpha Australia. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge that we meet today on the traditional lands of the Kaurna people and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging and their ongoing connection to the Adelaide Plains. I would also like to extend my gratitude to everyone here tonight. I'm immensely proud to be showcasing such talented members of the LGBTQI+ community here in South Australia and would like to acknowledge Act Now Theatre for their support for this event. This event will provide an amazing opportunity to discuss what it is actually like to identify as LGBTIQ+ in the creative sector here in South Australia. I would also like to briefly talk to you about Alpha Australia, seeing that this is one of the first events here. Alpha Australia is a volunteer organisation with a core mission of ensuring that everyone can be their true and authentic selves in the workplace and at university, supporting young people from our community as they transition through the early stages of their careers. To do this, Alpha Australia hosts the largest queer online mentor platform, actively organises events nationwide that showcase role models, build community and provide professional development opportunities. Now before we officially start, I wanted to provide a content warning that as a part of tonight, there will be discussions around our personal lives as members of the LGBTQI+ community. Also myself and other speakers may be using the word queer as a synonym or in place of the acronym LGBTQI+, or for anyone that identifies of diverse sex, sexuality or gender. I would also like to add that I want this event to be a safe space. So if anyone feels the need to step out of the room at any point, please feel free to do so. There's also some gender-neutral bathrooms just down the hallway as well. I've been told that one of them is unlocked and the other one is still locating the key. But I am really looking forward to this amazing discussion that we're going to be having tonight. And I would also like to invite Edwin up here to introduce Act Now Theatre and to tell us a bit about what they're doing.
Thanks, Brad. So I'd also like to acknowledge that we're on the land of the Kaurna people and pay my respects to elders past, present and future, and to say that the land was never ceded. My name's Edwin, I'm the Artistic Director of Act Now Theatre. We're a company that works with communities to create interactive projects around social justice issues. The three main communities that we work with are First Nations, culturally, linguistically diverse and queer communities. The queer work that we run include the queer youth theatre workshops that we just launched the promotion of for the next round today. It's a workshop program. Caitlin can talk about it as well. But the workshop program it's not just theatre games and learning skills, although that's kind of part of it. It's about finding ways to build queer communities and to create authentic representations of queer people in Adelaide. So this round we're developing a podcast that's looking at queer themes. Other kind of queer work that we do include, for about 5 years we ran a project about homophobia that toured to metro and regional schools, and we're currently working on a collaboration with a Taiwanese company about queer virtual intimacy. Ren can also talk about the company, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask me or Caitlin or Ren. And thank you for having us, and thanks for having this kind of awesome event. Well done. So I'm going to hand this to you because you're closest.
Oh, great. Hello, my name is Caitlin, my pronouns are she, her, and I will be moderating these beautiful people for not your entertainment, but for your information. Pick a word, it suits. I'm going to start with the ugly business of reading out all of your bios. I'm very sorry. Starting with on my left, we have Caitlin Tate. Caitlin is a freelance journalist, editor, poet and artist based in Kaurna land. Hosting the monthly spoken word event Draw Your Swords, she is surrounded by the best parts of the arts, with a focus on gender, sexuality, pop culture and politics. Caitlin loves an opinion, and she also wants to know your favourite era of Harry Styles' hair. We were talking about before, mine is the Dunkirk era.
I feel very good about Harry's hair right now, it's very boyish.
Yeah, welcome to this panel. Up next, also on my left, we have Maggie I'm the worst, I'm sorry. So Maggie is the first drag king to perform at Mary's Poppin', leading the way for a new wave of kings to stand up and take the stage. Maggie is also known as Thomas Angel and has been hitting the local drag scene for the last 18 months and has no intention of slowing down. finishing her Bachelor of Creative Arts drama in just a few months. Was it 2 months?
Yeah.
Yes. Maggie is laying the foundation to combine her 3 big passions, which are drag, main stage theatre, and telling queer stories on stage and film. I'm not going to read my bio. I have the power here, I'm sorry. On my right is Ren Soggy. Ren is an arts manager interested in contemporary, multicultural, multidisciplinary and participatory arts. They seek to affect social change through the arts, specifically with multicultural, intersectional, feminist and queer agendas. Ren works with community arts and cultural development values geared towards empowerment and enjoys mentoring others. Ren is driven by their passion for sparking conversation, understanding and engagement and resulting soft power outcomes. Ren has worked across many arts organisations, cultural hubs and festivals, recently including the Oz Asia Festival and Next Wave, and they joined Deck Now Theatre from Karklu, where they were the arts and events coordinator. This year, Ren is undertaking a Master of Fine Arts in Cultural Leadership at NIDA in Sydney. And to my right, to the very end, is Mark Ciafretti. Mark is a writer, broadcaster and theatre maker, and has been involved in performing and producing theatre since high school. He trained at Urban Myth in 2014, and in 2016 he attended ATYP's National Studio, and in 2017 he debuted his play Anti-World at the Adelaide Fringe. In 2018 he was a writer for the New Wave Audio Theatre, finally marrying his love for theatre maker and experience in broadcasting. And for the last 5 years he's been the lead producer on Radio Adelaide's Pride and Prejudice, which is a show we do together, and more recently The Range. And throughout all of this he is sadly a major comedian. Thank you for laughing. So we're going to jump straight into it and have a bit of an awkward messing of handing around mics because there is only 2 of us. And I'd love for each of all of you to start with in 2 minutes telling us a bit about your journey and how you ended up in the field or role that you're currently in.
Does this mean I start?
Yeah. That's what you get from putting the microphone out. No one to
Just trying to
I know, I'm very sorry.
throw it, but okay. You want me to say who?
In briefly about 2 minutes, tell all of us here a little bit about your journey and how you ended up where you are now.
Cool. So I, like Caitlin said, run a monthly spoken word poetry event called Draw Swords, which is just the light of my bloody life. I ended up there by luck and kind of nothing more. The old hosts of Draw Swords, so I kind of have stepped. Rewind. Draw Swords used to be hosted by, it was founded by Gemma and Wallace 4 years ago, and they kind of stepped down. Gemma stepped down end of last year, and Wallace moved to Melbourne partway through this year. So Wallace wanted to keep it going and asked me if I wanted to take over. Wallace and I are best friends, and I've been a punter at Draw Swords for years, and just really luckily got to take the reins, for kind of lack of a better phrase, which is really lovely. I just get to facilitate and hang out with beautiful poets and artists and people. My journey.
It's a horrible word, I'm so sorry.
My journey to get to where I am in terms of Draw Swords.
In general, as a creative arts.
Right. So I did a Bachelor of Journalism in Creative Writing. And graduated last year, and that helped me find my voice, which is really wanky. I was really lucky. I had a great uni experience. Had really great teachers. I was really nurtured and nourished, and continued my love of words and arts and connecting with people, and that just kind of kept going through uni and after. Full stop. And I'm queer.
Maggie, what about you?
Sorry, what was the question?
So you have to repeat it for all of us. Okay, if you can tell us or summarise your journey and how you got into the point that you are now at.
Right, okay. So I have been acting since I was about 5. My first role was Mrs. Hannigan in Annie, and I think that kicked off a lifetime of narcissism, so I'm really excited for that. As I said, I'm a drag king, and for those of you who don't know what a drag king is, I'm basically a drag queen, but the opposite. So I'm a girl born female, I dress up as a man for performance sake. It's very, very fun. With drag, I turned 18 and started harassing every queer venue that I could, being like, do you have a spot? Are you keen for a new performer? And they all said no, because at that time, drag kings were not really on anyone's radar. And then finally, Mary's Poppin had a come and try night. They're like, any amateur can come, we'll pay you $60 and give you a free drink, get up on stage, do your thing. And now they can't get rid of me. So, yeah, I'm really grateful for that opportunity, because that did really, me and my brother, another drag king called Ian Uendo, he's wonderful. We were the first 2 drag kings to perform there, and since then there's just been wave after wave of new talent and new performers coming, which has been really wonderful to see the drag world starting to diversify a little bit and to open up to AFAB performers and non-gendered performers, like people who don't want to be a king or a queen, they just want to wear the glittery makeup and have some fun. So that was really wonderful. Yeah, I've almost finished my acting degree. I got into Flinders Drama Centre in 2014, took some time off because I hated it because I was 19 and had no life, and then rediscovered my passion through just spending a bit of time on my own and spending a bit of time really figuring out who I am. And then I came back and been going strong and having a great time ever since. So I'm nearly finished that. I've got 2 months left, and then they're going to let me loose on the big broad world. So yeah, that's where I am today.
Might swap you now.
So I'm currently general manager here at Act Now Theatre, and my journey here has been quite varied. I moved from the UK when I was 17, which is a weird time to uproot, and I was the first person in my family to go to uni, and I was expected to go, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I've done music all my youth, like singing, performing, doing events and stuff, so there was already that kind of like tickle in there, but it had never been presented to me as an option for like actually doing as a career outside of performance. So I did classical history as my undergrad, started honours, and everyone wanted me to be a teacher, and I was like, no, that's not for me. I appreciate teaching, but like I want that to be part of my life, not all of my life. And so about that time that I decided that, I also realised I was queer, and that was a bit of an eye-opener as well. And so I was like, well, now that I know that I can do arts as not a career, how do I do that? So I kind of dabbled a bit with doing production. I was volunteering for lots of music festivals and did some music business courses through Music SA, and that was great. And I was doing things through Carclu and lots of different places, and actually I started volunteering at Feast, which was really good because I was feeling a lack of community, and that actually kind of opened the door to arts for me past contemporary music, which was my passion at the time, into like a wider range of arts. Eventually I got a fellowship at the Festival Centre for a year, which was like a paid internship for a year, and from there kind of ended up working on Ausasia, and from there kind of realised I wanted to be a producer and started thinking about the different kinds of art that I wanted to be doing longer term. And yeah, so it's been a bumpy ride. I've gone from marketing and production and volunteering into more kind of producer style work and looking at a various kind of thing. And I've also had like a very strong social activism streak alongside that. So I've been on the Rainbow Advisory Council for DCSI and done lots of stuff with Feast and with the queer youth health groups when they were still in place before they were defunded. So yeah, there's lots and lots there. And I've also had to like move interstate, not move, but like work interstate to get some of the skills that I needed to be able to get to here at Act Now, which I'm really happy to be working with the team here. They've been great and really open. So yeah, it's been wonderful.
All right. So I guess I've always been creative, and I think that's probably true for all of us here. So there was never not going to be a period of my life when I was not being creative. I wrote a bunch when I was a kid. I've been moving house, so I've been looking at it, and it's real bad. And I think I fell into broadcasting because I was doing stand-up comedy. I was real sad, and I was like, well, sad people do comedy, which is it's only incidentally true. So I started doing stand-up comedy, and our co-worker, I guess, is a way of calling Shaylee. She was like, hey, you should be on our queer show, because I was I've always kind of been queer, and as soon as I recognised that I was queer, I was not being quiet about it. Including my stand-up comedy. I would say to my stand-up comedy's detriment. But it was just, I feel like I sort of fell into it, and every single avenue I've had any avenue I've had that has led to me being public or doing anything to show other people, I've been like, here's my creative spin on it, so that I am adding creativity to whatever I'm doing. So even though I don't feel like broadcasting is necessarily creative, Caitlin will always say,
I'll fight you on
yeah,
that.
she's constantly telling me that I am doing creative things with my role. And I feel like putting together playlists, that's still kind of creative sometimes as well, which is my least creative role of my job. So yeah, I think that's my journey.
Beautiful. So there will be a time for questions afterwards. If you have any questions for these people, please write them down and keep them towards the end, because you will get time to ask them. Another question that I have for all of you up here, Mark, you've led into it quite nicely, is how queerness has influenced the creative stuff that each of you are doing. So whether that be the space that you've chosen to be in or the art that you are creating, how do those two intersect?
All right, so with broadcasting, particularly in the music industry, I don't know if you've noticed this about the Australian music industry, but it's very queer, so it's very easy to marry my queerness with doing my role as a music librarian. But with other stuff, it's more like trying to queer things that already exist. I feel like whenever I'm writing, I'm taking stuff that already exists and putting a queer spin on it. And there's a lot, I feel like there's a lot of genres that are, with writing, there's a lot of genres that they're perfectly queer. I would say that the young adult field is it's super queer at the moment. If it's not queer, it's not being sold. But with other things, you want to be pushing for queerness. I think with theatre, you want to be pushing for queerness. With film, you want to be pushing for queerness. I feel like I want to see stories that I can relate to, and I have to push for that, I feel.
Anyone burning with an answer?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So queerness for me was a way into the arts, but queerness was also, as a person who suddenly felt quite marginalised for a variety of reasons, arts was the safe place to go, and a place where things like questions, they were encouraged. And I realised that arts was the way that I could see other people like me on stage or around, so I think what drives me a lot of the time is being able to make space for other people to get up on that platform and provide that representation that I didn't have as a young person growing up. I think I'm a little bit older than most of the Tamil members here, and as a non-binary person, there was definitely no one I knew on the TV growing up 20 years ago. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest part. But also I think queerness isn't necessarily about your gender or sexuality. It can also be a practice and an approach, and I think that arts is inherently, experimental and contemporary arts is quite often inherently queer in the way it approaches things. That really excites me. It's breaking the norms so that we can change the future.
It's very interesting for me because I find myself on two very extreme ends of the spectrum, where as a drag performer, that is quintessentially queer. Everyone, for years and years and years, people recognised drag performers as queer. So with that, I find it very easy to express my the queer side of myself, and with that I'm really trying to push further. Whilst I do primarily perform as a drag king, I have recently debuted a hyper queen, or what used to be known as a bio queen, but we don't use that term anymore because it's a bit crap. My hyper queen, I primarily perform as a male, and even then I'll wear lingerie and fishnets with the costume to be what is gender? We love this. And then as an actor, it's something that I've struggled with a little bit, because coming into my final year of uni, they've gone, how do you want to brand yourself? Do you want to brand yourself to the world as a queer person? Do Do you want to do the pieces of, do you want to pick pieces where you are playing a queer character, or do you want to be more known as a straight person? And it's like, I hate that I have to make that decision, and I hate that that's something that, you know, I have to think about if I want to grow my hair out to make me more castable. Like that's terrible. So I've been trying to write my own stuff, and I've been trying to write something there's no such thing in the media, this is what I noticed growing up as well, there's no such thing as someone casually bisexual on TV or film. They're either, you know, out to destroy the relationship and the chaotic bisexual, or they're the gay, you know, it's the bisexual man who turns out to be gay in the end, because bisexual men don't exist. So for me, I've gone, I'm really passionate about telling these stories, and so I've started to write some pieces myself about what I call casually bisexual people, where they don't turn out to be chaotic. It's like, oh, thank you, that exists, you know. But tackling bisexual erasure has been really big for me and I do it in drag as well. You know, I recently did a performance where I dressed all my friends up in Tinder bios and swiped through them all, and it was wonderful. It was great. And I talk about not being chaotically bisexual, and then there's that, you know. But that's me.
Aren't all queers chaotic? So as a trained journalist, and someone who like dabbles as a journalist sometimes, that is a very different world to like spoken word poetry. My mum is very like straight down the middle with a lot of things, like liberal with some things, but like quite like a lot of things are black and white. And I said, I'm in therapy. And I said to my mum, I told her that I wanted to shave my head and shave my hair off. Shave my hair. Whatever. And her instinct was like, you're not gonna get employed as a serious journalist as a woman with no hair. And unfortunately, she's right. However, if I was a spoken word poet, that shit is real on brand. That shit is bang on. So I've kind of struggled it's the multifacetedness of the arts, I think, but also my problem that I should bring up in therapy with the need to be clockable as a queer person, and as someone who sometimes butchers it up, for a lack of a better term, or looks kind of like I do now. It can kind of fling wherever, and in a predominantly straight workplace, e.g. journalism, it's very queer. However, there's pockets of it, and the people that are hiring queer people at SBS and ABC, God bless them, but the rest of it's very straight. I was going somewhere with that, but you can connect the dots yourself.
You actually segued perfectly into my next question. Thank you, Kate. Yeah, it's almost like we both are trained journalists. We're the same person. What I would love us to delve into a little bit more, and I think Ren, you touched on this as well, and same with you, are the unique challenges and barriers that exist for queer people in either your creative workspaces or just in your lives in general, just being queer.
Yeah, so when I was 19 and at uni, before I had my queer awakening, I was working in a boarding house. This is why I don't want to be a teacher. And I was living in as a live-in tutor, which meant that I was basically a big sister to 30 girls. And it was a private school, and private schools at that time, I think they still can, I'm not 100% sure what the legislation's changed or not. But at that time, if you were queer, if you got pregnant out of wedlock, they still can, okay, all that kind of jazz, they could fire you based on that. And whilst I was working at that school, I realised that I was in love with a woman and couldn't really change that. And my boss was really openly homophobic, and I left that job, which was also my home, and moved out with my partner. I did the U-Haul thing, but not out of. Oh, no, it's like it was, you know, you want to do the U-Haul thing when you're young, queer, but also it was out of necessity too, and I don't think if it hadn't have been out of necessity, that probably wouldn't have happened, and that would probably change that relationship a lot too. And that was also with the framing that my parents are pretty homophobic and trying to work around that as well. So yeah, I think that really changed for me what I thought I could do with my life and what jobs I could take, and I've always had that sense of going into a workplace and sussing it out before I'm open about that, and that's been really hard. And I found in the arts that's been easier, but it's not always been easy, particularly not as I've been in previous jobs where I have transitioned from being female to being non-binary, and that's not always been a smooth process, as I'm sure many people in this space might have experienced. But arts tends to be the space that I found has been the easiest to navigate that. So.
Yeah, you go. Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Just talk over each other.
It's really interesting because, like I said before, drag is quite quintessentially queer, like people recognise as a queer medium. However, drag kings are not as popular as drag queens, and I meet many people who go, "Oh, drag king, what's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, here we go." Seems pretty self-explanatory to me, but I'll go into it. And we are constantly fighting to be gendered properly. Like, I'll be there with a beard stuck to my face, and I'll have people come up to me going, "Oh, this is Maggie, she's my friend, she does drag." And I'm like, you would never walk up to a drag queen and say he. You would never do that. It's just, and you know, all the vernacular and this is our challenge as kings at the moment. We've got an incredible. And we've been given so much opportunity from, you know, like people like I'm very grateful to the Flinders University Queer Society. They've given me so much opportunity, and this opportunity as well to get myself out there as a king. But what we're doing at the moment, which I think is incredibly important, is we are banding together, and we've got a great group chat, which we all, you know, bicker and chat in, and it's wonderful. And we are fighting for that representation. So if a drag king gets misgendered, we'll all rally together and go, no, it's a he, or, you know, or a they. This is how he wants to be presented, and it's you know, we're challenging that vernacular, you know, like all the, you know, yas, queen, slay bitch, you know, well, everyone knows that stuff. We're trying to challenge that and go, okay, but we're men up there, and it's a challenge I didn't think I would face coming in. I thought it would, but it's a huge challenge, and it's a relevant challenge, and also just getting drag kings represented as equal, because we're not considered as polished, we're not considered, you know, we don't have the big wigs and the glam, you know, we wear jeans, and well, not all of us, some of us are very fabulous, but that equal representation is incredibly difficult, and I'm so grateful for opportunities like this to explain to you guys what we are and what we're about, because it's a wonderful medium. Yeah. If anyone's interested, October 12th, we're having an all drag king review. Sorry, I'm using this as an open or advertising. It's very unique. There's opportunities like that in Adelaide now which don't exist anywhere else in Australia, so it's really, really wonderful. Yeah, I'll tell people about that at the end though.
Oh, I have a mic. Oh, no, share it too. Sorry.
That's okay.
So bad. What was the question?
Barriers you've faced either as a queer individual or working in a creative space.
Yeah, I've got nothing.
That's okay. Mark.
I think I've always taken the path of least resistance, so I've never really been in that many spaces that it has been a barrier. I think, like, when I was doing stand-up comedy more regularly, it could be a bit of a problem, simply because I feel like a lot of comedians think everything is up for debate, all the time, always. So that is like something that can be very confronting. It's just my least favourite part about the community is just a little tiring. But in other spaces, I've always been in spaces that have been pretty open and pretty queer-friendly, like the radio station that we volunteer at. I think they've always been pretty damn queer-friendly. And I think they used to have 50-50 representation, men and women on air, which I know is not the only numbers, but it's just, yeah, path of least resistance. I choose the spaces that it won't be a barrier. And also, I think I'm oblivious. I think I'm possibly like blundering into spaces where I might not be entirely welcome, but it's just such a thing that it's such a part of me that I can't not be this person. I can't not be very open about it. At home, entirely different, but in my workplace, in my work life, if I'm not that person, then I'm not being me.
Is that noise behind us distracting anyone else from the windows? Can anyone hear loud music? I can see slight notes. Great, cool.
I mean, it's there. It's like moody.
Okay.
It's fun.
Yeah, I reckon we can shut the windows. Thank you.
It's not significantly loud.
It is quite loud for us. The joys of Hindley Street. Am I right?
All of the day bars are just like floating.
This is true. They knew we would be here, so it's like advertising. Thank you so much, Ren. I don't think it was 14. Okay. Okay, moving swiftly on, now that the windows are closed and there's no external noise, what I would love to know is why all of these lovely people sitting up here with me chose the projects and the organisations you work with now.
Well, like I said before, it was luck, or like fate, or divine timing, etc. Because that's Draw Swords. It's the bees, bloody knees. Like, it's just the most queer friendly space in the Blade world, in my opinion. So it's fantastic. In journalism, or like as a professional person that's not on stage kind of blabbering about like right now, I chose because I love it, and also because there were so few. I didn't choose it because of this, but it just became like a beautiful side love. Journalism in my course, so few women of colour, so few people of colour, and queer people. And journalism will be around forever. Print is not dead, etc., etc. But like, journalism will continue to exist. News needs to be told forever, and to have the people telling stories to be diverse and actually represent what the world is crucial. And I get to get up on Draw Swords stage and kind of present all these beautiful people that we work really hard to bring in, so that they are diverse and they feel safe and included. But then in journalism, it's very white and it's very straight. The people that you see on TV are maybe not able to be out. I have a friend that works at the ABC, and she is not. It's not that she's not allowed to be publicly out, but it's kind of like a behind closed doors conversation. That if she wants to be a young woman reporter, young female reporter, that maybe she shouldn't be so publicly out. So I think it's really important. That wasn't the reason why I got into journalism, but it's a bloody nice reason to stay in it.
I study at Flinders University at the Drama Centre there, and that was my dream forever. I auditioned for NIDA and bombed spectacularly, and so focused my efforts on Flinders, and Flinders was always my number one. And I am really grateful for the opportunities I've had there, because they not only teach you how to be an actor, they teach you how to create work, and they teach you how to devise. And I know in some other drama schools they will focus very strictly on musical theatre, or you'll do your first year general and then they'll branch off and you've got to pick one thing you want to do, whereas Flinders has taught me everything. And I've been really, really lucky to work with some wonderful queer directors like Tom Healy and Catherine Fitzgerald, who have done wonderful, wonderful work and who have encouraged me as a queer person to be myself. And Tom Healy's been particularly, I'm not sure if any of you know who Tom Healy is, but he's the head of acting at Flinders at the moment, and he was an actor himself and is a director. He has been really, really very encouraging of my drag, and he, to the point where they put on a show at the beginning of this year. They did The Good Woman of Szechuan. Is anyone familiar with that? It's a Brecht. So Brecht, oh my god, kill me. But she basically, the lead character in that. You know, we all play Chinese people, which we won't go into that, but you know, it's a problem. But she dresses up as her own cousin because women don't have respect. So she dresses up as a man, and they went, Maggie, thank you, we'll use your drag skills and we'll put you in this show because we know you can lead it because you're familiar with dressing as a man, you're familiar with that. So they've fostered so much opportunity for me to do my drag, and they even made me put it in my bio. We've got a bio we send off to all the agents to go basically, please hire me, I'm talented. And they made me put my drag in there, like it's niche, it's different, no one else does it, put it in there. So they've been really wonderful. If anyone's looking to study acting, Flinders University. I'm sorry, I'm doing so much advertising, I need to stop.
Not fun.
Take the mic, confiscate it.
Could you repeat the question? Sorry. Oh, Barry's was the last one.
Oh no, why did you choose Thank You?
Oh.
Random audience member.
I fell into it, so I didn't really choose.
Why do you stay in it then?
Yeah, I was gonna approach it that way. I guess I stay because it still feels very like, it feels like a very welcoming space. It's kind of shifted and changed. There's less of a community than there used to be since Radio Adelaide shifted where it was, but it's still there, it's just a little bit smaller. And I stay with it because I really like doing it, even though I can get a little bit burnt out doing the work there. But it's also just a fantastic outlet for me. So even when I am at my least creative, I'm still doing something like marginally creative. It's sometimes saps my ability to be creative elsewhere, which I think is something that is a problem with going with a creative job sometimes, is that you have less time for your own work. But I'm still developing skills there. And I think developing skills is probably the main reason why I stay there.
So I ended up here, partly I love ACT now because it's kind of the intersection of two of the things I'm interested in, which are activism around social justice issues. And although I'm not maybe a protester, I do more of the kind of protesting behind the scenes. I know that's my strength, and I think a lot of people don't talk about that, but I'm definitely not an up-in-your-face kind of activist. I'm a let's see what we can do behind the scenes to support that kind of thing. But then also arts and contemporary arts, and ACT Now is that, and it's such a diverse community here, and it's been so warm and welcoming. ACT Now used to be in the Car Club building, so I literally, like, 1 week finished work at one side of the corridor, and then the next week walked across the corridor and joined the team. So Edwin and I already had a really strong rapport, and I knew most of the team, and that it's like a family here, and that has made a world of difference. We can be like quite busy and under the pump, but the community and the safety and the respect everyone has in this space keeps me here, and the ability to be able to carve out platforms for other people to stand up and get their stories out there really drives me. So it would be nothing without all of you here as well, kind of thing. Like, so it's for the community to be able to develop. Yeah, I just feel really strongly about that.
Nice. How are we doing for time? Good, great, amazing. What I would love to touch on, and this is something, Mark, that you brought up, and then if you follow me on Instagram, it's very close to my heart. Burnout is a very big thing. As you can, a lot of reactions just on this panel alone. What I would love for us to talk about now is burnout in general and how you avoid it or fall into it as a queer person in the arts. Who would like to go first?
I think sometimes burnout is avoidable because it's not necessarily just working on creative stuff that will give you burnout. It's sometimes like your personal life is going to give you burnout. So like family stuff is going to give you burnout, relationship stuff is going to give you burnout. I think the way I could avoid burnout, this is a tip for me, is say no more. Because I say yes to a lot of things, and then I have too many plates spinning at once, and then there's no possible way that I can keep them all spinning at the same time whilst having a healthy home life. And sometimes I think we leap into work to avoid getting burnt out in our home lives, but that doesn't work either. You need to get like some mental health days, you need to take some time for yourself. And I think treating creative work it's work, guys. So you need to take some mental health days there as well. That's for me though.
I think as a person who has been in an organisation where I've suffered burnout, partly because of the organisation, but also because, and this is something that I've had to work on over a long time, is that sense of scarcity and having to look after myself as a person who might not have the same kind of family support as other people around me, or just having backup, can feel very isolating, and you get this sense of scarcity, and so you always feel like you have to be on your best behaviour all the time, and you have to do the best job, otherwise you're going to lose that safety. And often work feels like safety, and it's definitely led me to not taking enough risks, but it's also given me a lot of burnout over the years. And I think it's also hard, particularly in organisations where there isn't that queer awareness. You have to be really careful to manage how people use you to find out about queerness. Or how people disrespect you, because that's also very difficult, and that's not an easy thing to navigate, but I've learned that communicating is good, and sometimes you just actually have to leave, and that can be really scary, and that's not always an option, so it's about how do you manage it when you're in those spaces. So, but on the plus side, taking, like what Mark said, taking time for yourself, making sure that you are carving out time for just you. If you do that, you might feel like the intensity of that scarcity or whatever it is that you feel around that, but actually that will keep you driving and doing the work. But actually you do need to step back, and it's okay to step back, and you can give yourself permission, and you don't need someone else to do it for you.
Actually, Ren touched on isolation and needing to leave. I think one thing that has always kind of combated my burnout is touching with the communities that I'm working with. I'm going on a weekend holiday with Caitlin to National Young Writers Festival, and that's like always restorative to me. There are things that I go to that restore me in ways that I do not expect to be restored with. I think during the plebiscite there were a lot of events where we came together as a community, and that restored us in a way that nothing else could have. It's community is another way to combat burnout. Yeah, and I think community is just bolstering your support networks as well. So support networks, it's not just you taking time for yourself, it's getting other people to help you. Ask for help.
You guys have covered what I would say personally, but a big one for me, and this is a sticky one, is know your worth. So as a primarily freelance artist who is pitching, my act of Thomas Angel, being like, hey, I'm a drag king, can I come perform for you? It's then going, yeah, but you're gonna pay me. There is a fine line between going, yes, I will do this for exposure because I'm a new performer and we are helping each other out here, and being taken advantage of. And I know I had massive burnout from just doing free show after free show after free show, and them saying to me, I'm not going to name any names, but them saying to me, you need to spend more money on your drag, you're not up to par with the rest of our performers. So me investing personally a lot of money and not getting anything back, and I just had to get to the point where I went, no, that's not okay anymore. Like, you need to start paying me for this. I'm spending hours on this costume. I've put together this performance. I've driven from the hills. I've parked. Like, I've spent $100, $150, $200 on this, and I'm not even getting a free drink from you. Like, come on. So know your worth. Like, seriously, I'm a union member. I know what I'm supposed to be getting paid now, and it's. And that's not to say that you shouldn't do stuff for free, because sometimes it's you help me, I'll help you. Like, there's people I'd be more than happy to perform for free, but it's when people start expecting stuff for free, and they expect you. They're choosing beggars, as the term is, and that causes severe burnout. So yeah, know your worth. Know you're all talented and worth the world.
I think in my past experience of burnout, like recently, I have asked people to cook me meals because I don't eat vegetables when I am burning out. I ask my people for help. So many people ask you, like, when you're feeling down, like, what can I do for you? And so often the answer is literally nothing, because the answer is nothing. Like, there is nothing you can do for me right now. Like, I'm just in my head, I'm in my space, I just need to be alone, but in those moments I found it really helpful to get home cooked meals. Listen to podcasts that are like full of bullshit, like things that I don't have to think about. Play Sudoku, just like spend a lot of time alone in my room, doing sweet fuck all. That is really what has helped me most. But if there is something that you can ask from people, do it, because those people want to help you. And yeah, like I said, there's not a lot of times when you feel down. Like think of how often you tell your friends, like, is there anything, or ask your friends, like, what can I do for you when they're feeling low? And so often the answer is literally nothing. So if there is something they can do, ask them, because they'll be willing to help.
Of course. So this is another big one for me as well. I've quite personally, and here's my sob story, I've personally gone through a really horrendous breakup with a horrible partner who was abusive. And what I had to do was go, I'm not okay. It's also okay to say when people are demanding of you, to say to them, I'm not alright at the moment. And I think as artists, there's almost this like, you can't burn out. I don't know if that's something I've experienced as an actor, but you're expected to be superhuman. And you are allowed to say no to things and just go, fuck off. I'm going to bed and watching Matilda 6 times. That is fine. So that would be my closing statement on burnout.
Beautiful, thank you. Yeah, sure. So most of you are in roles where you're overseeing and supporting other creatives, particularly queer creatives. Mark the Pride and Prejudice, Kate and Draw Your Swords as like specific examples. Why are these spaces and environments important, and do you have any overall insights into what they're like in Adelaide for those watching at home? Looking directly at you right now.
Thanks. In Adelaide, they're very tight-knit. It's like the queer community in Adelaide. It's tight-knit, to say the least. So you walk, like I get to walk into Draw Your Swords, and so often I see people that I see month after month, and they're just the best. And it is really lovely and special when new people come into the space and experience it for the first time. What was the first part of that question? Sorry.
Why are these spaces important?
Oh my god. How good are safe spaces? Like it is, because Draw Your Swords is run monthly, and even though I get to facilitate it and I'm like a big part of the kind of experience of it in terms of navigating it, I forget how bloody cool it is. Like I forget just how special it is to have, like, I'm queer, I'm a woman, any other like minority groups I can fit into, sure. Like brackets, community is important, and it is so rare, I found, to have physical community, to actually show up. Like you said with the plebiscite, like those kinds of events of like rallying people together, people actually getting to show up is really special and really sacred. And for Draw Your Swords, which is unintentionally quite queer, it just so happens that the arts bring in queer people. Who would have thought? It's just, the best to have physical community for a few hours a month. That always makes me cry in the best way.
Facilitating these spaces is the best. It's like one of my favorite things is seeing people who are less confident in their skills, and you're like, no, you're good at this, and then finally getting the confidence they deserve. I feel like I've definitely seen a lot of people at Radio Adelaide be like, oh, I'm kind of good at this stuff. Caitlin is a great example. I've seen her go from a student to be like, fucking this. It's incredible. And Caitlin is the best. I
pay him to say that.
I feel like I facilitate that like this, but oh god, it's good to see it happen. I think I do it in part because I come from a very working class background, and these there's definitely a lot of opportunities that didn't exist back when I was young. I mean, I'm still young, but back when I was doing stuff, I had no idea what to do. These opportunities may have existed, but people weren't telling me specifically. But I want to make sure that other people are getting those things, because I didn't. I just want it better for everyone. It's a nice thing.
Ren and or Mikey, do you have anything to add?
Pretty much echoing what you both said. I think it's been really nice to have a space where people come into where they're all sharing the same experience and then working from that point, and that actually not being the first thing that's eating away at you all the time. I mean, when I was at Next Wave, I worked on a production that was an entirely trans and gender diverse group. Like, everyone was, even the design crew. We had deaf artists. Everyone was trans, and it was incredible. And the way that space worked, it was the first time I worked in a space where there just wasn't anxiety or just like this little bit at the end behind my eyes that was like just draining the energy from me. Like, I actually felt like I could be in that space and do the work that I know I can do. And it was just such a relief, and I want to provide that for other people. So yeah, I think, and it's amazing seeing other people just like jump up when they get into those spaces and like just blossom. Or like not blossom, but also still be like warm in a way that they didn't know they could be. So, yeah.
Oh, you guys have got such wonderful spaces. Us drag kings have a group chat. But that's something I would just add, is that even if there isn't something that exists for your medium, make it. Like, our group chat started with 4 people. I think there's 20 of us in there now, which is just wonderful. And people come and go. People come into the group chat and go, oh, this isn't for me, and they leave. But it's so nice for us to support each other, and we post our makeup in there and our song choices, and like we plan meetups and rehearsals, and like we support each other, and it is so wonderful. And it may not be like an organisation or a monthly event or something, but I've got my boys there on Facebook, and it is wonderful. So yeah, create it. Like, if you've got 3 people and you're like, we want to make this, just make a little chat, and it feels really wholesome. It's lovely.
Love some wholesome feels. And one more question for all of you before we throw to the audience. What I would love to know is whether or not, what advice, you don't get a choice, you have to answer this question. What advice do you have for anyone who might be sitting in this room or who might be watching, who's either younger or the same age, because we are quite a young panel, who's either studying or not studying and wants to enter into a creative field as a queer person? What advice do you have for them? Who would like to go first? I will throw someone into the deep end. Mark.
I think I've only got make it gay is the advice I have. You can bring queerness to everything. Queerness, as I think Ren said, it's not just being queer, it is a way of doing. The personal is political, everything you do is political. You can make it gay. I feel like with creative industries, it's very easy to make it gay because you have control, you have some control there. And I think that's part of what is appealing about creativity, is having that control. I guess bring yourself to it. I think that's what we should be doing in general anyway. Yeah.
I think mine would be, and I hope this makes sense, is don't feel like you're not queer enough. You know, like that. I know that I get a lot of imposter syndrome where I'm like, oh, I'm not gay enough, you know, I feel like I'm pretending, and it's like, no, this is a really important part of my identity, and this is, I may not be, I'm very comfortably presenting feminine when I'm not in drag, but that doesn't mean I'm any less gender diverse when I'm as a boy, and I won't fiercely argue you if you call me a girl and I'm dressed as a boy, don't feel like you're not queer enough, because you are.
You've already learned that the boundaries aren't necessarily what you thought they were. So if you're not happy with something, question it, and find other people around you who want to question it with you, or find the people above you to bring into the conversation?
Go forth. You'll find your people, I promise, and be safe. If you're not able to be out, it's okay to not be. You just might be in a workplace that you need that job and you can't be out. It is okay to not be out, to make that decision, whether you're trans, non-binary, queer, however you identify. It is okay to not be out and to make that decision and own that. I used to date a trans man and he worked on a very macho, cis workplace for a few months, and he didn't come out because he didn't feel safe to, and that is okay, and you are valid, and it's like in Pride March, we march for those who can't, so you're held regardless.
Thank you all. Now I'm going to throw to the audience. Does anyone have a question? Caitlin, straight away. I'm going to come to you. Yeah, there's a lot of Caitlins. Welcome to the
It's inherently gay, no? Yeah. It is. I love it. You're right.
Yep. I have a comment and a question. Firstly is for you, Caitlin. You kept saying that you came into this role by luck, and that is just not entirely true. Draw Your Swords chose you. It wasn't luck. Draw Your Swords chose you, and Wallace and Gemma chose you because you're passionate. You're a very, very talented poet. So stop just talking yourself down like that. All right.
Thanks, you rock.
Question is, I don't work in a creative field, and I grew up in a semi-rural area that did not have queer spaces or creative spaces, and for that, maybe partly for that reason, I didn't even consider creative spaces an opportunity for a career, because it's the main point of a career is to monetize, and a career is not, like a career in creatives was just not going to achieve that. And so for any of you who did come from semi-rural or from a similar family that thought that way, or community that thought that way, how did you get past that? And how did you navigate it with I didn't have drama in school. How did you find that?
There's going to be some great answers, but I'm going to jump in before we get to those great answers. I don't get paid for Draw Swords.
I know.
Sometimes I do. I get paid for workshops that we put on, but I'm really stoked to do this for free. And I burn out, but that's okay. I'm okay with that compromise. I work like a shitty part-time job, and that's okay. Because art. I didn't know creative spaces existed either, and I grew up in Adelaide. Because I think exposure, I guess, and so circumstantial. My parents are straight and cis, and why would they have brought me into a queer creative space? That doesn't, for them, that doesn't make sense. I think more opportunities are abundant now. There are more things happening. Social media exists, so we're hearing about more things. And also, as a Draw Your Swords thing, we're working really hard on going to more, we're based in Chateau Apollo, is where we host our events, but we're working really hard on going down south or out north, and expanding and not keeping it central because the arts aren't just for the privileged.
I was very lucky to probably not relevant to me.
I think there's a lot of, I feel like Caitlin gave me a career by putting me on this panel tonight. Because I often feel like I don't have a career in the arts, despite the fact that pretty much I'm doing creative things all the time. But most of the time I'm not getting paid, yeah. I think when you look at how poorly authors, writers are earning sub to $20,000 a year, a lot of people are supplementing their income with other work. That's just very common in the arts. But when you get paid, it makes it feel so worthwhile.
$100
Yeah, exactly. I'm waiting on pointing on some pavement, and I'm like, wow, I did something creative, and oh, it's the best. But like, yeah, it's a lot of the time it's carving out your own spaces. I didn't know that a lot of creative spaces existed either. I come from a very, the West is not working class now, but it was when I was growing up. There were not very many things happening, and like, no one knew about that stuff. I did have drama in school, luckily, but that was like, oh, you do drama in school, and that's your limit of drama. That's what you do. No one goes to acting school. And I feel so lucky. I feel like I've carved out my own little niche that I definitely don't see anyone like I went to school with doing. I feel so, like, it's isolating sometimes that I'm not having similar lives. I feel like I would have a lot more stability if I was doing other stuff, but I don't think I could do that other stuff and not hate myself.
So I had probably one working class parent and one middle class parent, and so arts was quite present for me growing up. Yeah, I didn't know I could do it outside of performance, which seems ridiculous to me now, but like I really didn't know that. But I was also quite shamed for taking a non-career specific arts degree. So I think, I'm not sure quite where I'm going with that, but yeah, well, when I actually started doing what I wanted to do, which was the contemporary music, which led to the other things, it was something that I could discover, and it was something that once I was in and doing, I realised I couldn't do anything else because I just got so bored or so frustrated. And I was like, well, how do I make this work? I can't do the risky things, but like do the contract to contract stuff, but I'll do, so I've kind of carved my own path, and I think it would be very different if I not quite had that path, but I think I'd definitely still be working in the arts, and I think you know in here, and if that is in there, then you kind of find a way to it at some point, and it's never too late. Like, if your circumstances, now that you know that that's there, what's stopping you?
I was very, very blessed to have a family that was incredibly supportive of my career in the arts, and to the point where my sister said, I want to be a nurse, and Mum went, no, you should be a singer. So, you know, it's quite very blessed with that. With the drag thing, not so much. Mum, and the queer thing, I love my mother to death. She's very much of a generation where she goes, I have nothing wrong with gay people, but I think being bisexual is a bit greedy.
Being versatile.
I've got 3 daughters. Yeah, I like the word. Indulgent is the word I would use. But my aunt, I just started drag, and my aunt bought me a packer for my birthday, which, if you don't know what a packer is, it's a fake penis, like a flaccid fake willy that you can shove in your pants, and it's wonderful. And I think reaching out to my broader family and reaching out to other people and just persevering with it has helped. My mum came to, the first time she'd seen me drag was a couple of weeks ago, and she was sort of a bit wide-eyed and looking at the 7-foot-tall drag queens, but she appreciated it, and she saw that I was doing it and that I was loving it, and I know I'm incredibly lucky with that. I know not all queer people have that support from their family, which is why we choose our own family. So that would be that is the one thing I love, is we can choose our own family. So choose the people and bring the people in who you know we're going to support you.
I also think there's a lot of mythologizing with art. It's not just, as Ren said, it's not just performers. There's like so many art roles, there's so many creative roles. I don't think of my radio work as creative, but it's very clearly creative. I'm literally writing scripts all the time. I'm coming up with ideas. It's creative, and there's all these roles in businesses that are creative roles that aren't framed as creative roles, but they're definitely creative roles. There is payment there. It's just not in the way you expect. Creativity isn't necessarily what you're going to be expecting.
And it doesn't have to be professional to be creative. Yeah. And I think what I was saying before might have come off as a little bit privileged, like why I'm doing it. But I think there are ways you can be creative that don't necessarily mean you have an arts career, and that's still super valid and super beautiful.
Before I said, next. I'm just gonna yell. Before I said, I've been like stewing on it this whole time, being like, before I said like, I do poetry things, but my professional thing, poetry is professional. Like your shit is professional. Like if you're doing it, you're a professional. Like, and I'm learning my shit of like working class upbringing. Like my professional thing is like the journalism side, and my fun thing is poetry. Like, no, like I work really hard at hosting Draw Swords and facilitating it and all the behind the scenes stuff, which doesn't, no one sees because it's not as pretty and it's not on a stage with lighting and a microphone, and that is professional. Whatever you do, you're a professional at it. I feel like I'm a TED talker.
Didn't even have to say.
So I wanted to go back to something someone said earlier about feeling a need to be clockable, because that's something I've been feeling a lot lately. Yo everyone, I'm Ollie. I'm a fab non-binary, and like very recently people see me as a dude and I'm like and I recently had an experience where I ran some auditions, and for the first time ever I was going into this space thinking, holy shit, I'm not here as a queer artist, I'm here as like a director man or something. And so I was just wondering how you if anyone has any advice on overcoming that need to feel clockable, because I feel like it's fake news. Like I feel like it would just be so lovely if I could just pretend that every single person is probably queer, even if they're not wearing a rainbow. Like I know sometimes I'll go to Melbourne and then come home and be like, oh, there are really just no rainbows here. That doesn't mean there are less gay people though. And so I think that I don't know, I have a lot of struggles with visibility and whether it's actually, I'm a very loud person, I think it's very necessary, but whether it's, this isn't a question, but can you please answer it?
I think, I'm 24, still young, still baby. I'm aware of that, but a lot has changed in 3 years with my need to be clockable. And my intense need to walk into a space and be like, I have an undercut, I have piercings and tattoos, I'm queer. Suffocating me to be queer, and have a dyke pin on me, and wear a tote bag, and all the things. I just want to lean in to be clockable as queer because I want cute queer girls to clock me. That is where my need to be clockable comes from. I want people to hit on me. No, it's fine. But I found that a lot of it comes with age. For me, a lot of it's just come with time and age and full stop. And I know that answer sucks, I'm so sorry. I wish I could give you something to be say this mantra once. Move on.
I'm a peacock. I am a sign of queer, and that's how I choose to present myself. And I know I'm living. My earrings, you can't see them. They're the bisexual colours. I am a literal peacock. So I guess I have that. And for me, it's not so much a need to be identifiable, but just an aesthetic that I enjoy. And it's. I guess it's has anyone read that, there's a meme going around that's girls with...
I didn't believe the difference your aesthetic is bad, I love the aesthetic.
Oh, no, I know that, I'm just telling you why that's fine, I'm good. There's been a meme going around that's been girls with coloured hair, in the wild, frogs with bright colours are poisonous. Have people seen that? And someone else has gone, yes, but that is to detract predators, not sexual partners. So if my hair is detracting you, it's working. Which I just found wonderful, and I feel like for me it attracts my like-minded people, and I love to surround myself with people like that. And this is a terrible answer as well, I'm sorry, but I'm not necessarily interested in being around people who won't accept this. This is how, and I've had that same thing as well. Of I did shave my head, and I did that, and dyed every colour under the sun, and I'm having my drama school tell me, you're probably not employable, like you need to tone it down. And I went, okay, 7 colours then. So it's about just embracing it and loving it, and knowing that the people you're going to attract the same people. And it's hard. I'm sorry, that's a terrible answer, but if it helps, I think I love queer looking people. I think you're all wonderful, and that doesn't mean I'm going to be like I'm going to obsess over your queerness either. Like, that's the other thing. Like, I'm not, just because we all happen to be, it's like, hey fellow queer, like we're not going to, that's fine. We can just enjoy each other and enjoy how beautiful we all are. Sorry if that's a crap answer.
No, stop saying you're crap. Literally all of you. Cut it out.
Also ask for pronouns. I find that's a really good one to be like, this is a safe space because I'm asking for your pronoun. Be like, I'm Caitlin, my pronouns are she, her. Yeah. What about you? I find that that's a good way to be clockable.
I definitely struggle with being clockable because I think there's a very easy way for gay men to be clockable, and that's to appear on Grindr. But I am not on those apps, so I do struggle with that clockability because I have severe anxiety with dating apps. So that is something I struggle with. In my professional life and in my personal life, it's very easy because I can just walk into a room and just assume that everyone knows that I'm gay, and that's just how I act. And I guess that's a way of, just owning your clockability. But I definitely struggle, like, maybe I should get a pink triangle tattoo so they know I'm a woke gay. But it's just, yeah, it's a very sad thing. It is something that you struggle with, but I think clockability, sometimes it's not for the people you know, because the people who know, yeah, it's for strangers. Clockability is for strangers. It's not for people who know you, and people who know you, I feel like submitting to the terror of being known, that's like very hard, but like when you're open and like extremely open, there's less of a chance of being hurt when you are clocked, yes. Yeah.
I don't really get read how I am ever, so I don't know that I really have an answer to this question at the moment. I think there's a lot of invisibility for me, both trying to be invisible, but also being invisible as who I am. So I don't know the answer. I don't have an answer to that. I'm sorry.
In the answer to shaving your hair, Caitlin, I can see you struggling with it. Do it. As someone who shaved their hair at the beginning of this year, do it. You have a crisis, but do it.
I can help with that. Caitlin can attest.
Ren, the first time we met, Ren shaved off a bit of my hair. New Year's Eve was the time. Does anyone else have a question?
Sorry,
No.
Is it okay for us to, people in the audience to answer all these questions?
Yeah, help me.
Maybe in the chat afterwards, if it's okay. Yeah, because it'll be time to network and stuff like that. But there was someone behind you had a question, so just pass the mic.
So, how do you get by feeling bad when you're just coming into your identity? Any advice? Sorry.
When I came out, I was like 15, 16. I lent into it really hard. And I think that's like, I feel like every queer person gets to have that moment. If you feel like you're being too queer, you're allowed to be. You're allowed to find out how queer you are, because I feel like a lot of queerness is testing the waters. You get to test how gay you are. Is that, I feel like, yeah. And I think that's something with finding identity in general. You can go too far. You're allowed to. You're allowed to do whatever the heck you want. You're allowed to, it's not like anything you do, like identity is flexible and impermanent. It's not like as soon as you throw something to the wall, that's all you are forever. Yeah, there's time and space. You're allowed to do what you want. There's no mistakes. Yeah.
Absolutely, sit with it for as long as you want. Sit with multiple things. at the same time at different times. Sometimes those things intersect and you won't know until they cross over. You can't necessarily know what they're going to be. And they might not stay the same, and that's okay. And don't let other people box you in.
What was the question again? Or a paraphrase of the question?
How do you sort of get by feeling rather when you're sort of coming into your identity?
Oh, okay. This intersects interestingly with that last question as well, because for me it is the way I present myself, and accepting it as well. And I think for a long time I was very much a, I think I was about 15 when I went, I think I like women as well as men. I think I like both. I think I like that. And for a while I just ignored it. And then I think it was around the time, I'm sorry if this is distressing for people, about the time of the shootings in that nightclub, where I posted on Facebook and said, I'm, as a proud member of this community, of the LGBT community, I stand with these people. And my aunt rang me and went, Maggie, that's really offensive to say you're a proud member of the community if you're not. And I went, oh, well, I am. And that's pretty much how I owned everything. And that sort of, I just had a big punchy moment where I went, I do care about this. And then I shaved all my hair off. And, had a moment and broke up with my super Christian fiance, who is a lovely man, don't get me wrong, but his dad did have a slideshow on why you should vote no, so that was horrible. And just owned, I feel like my emerging into this community for me was a little bit like blowing up a balloon. Like it was contained, and then just something, and it was everywhere. And covered in glitter and fabulous. It won't go away now. So yeah, it's about owning it when you're ready to own it. And it is also okay, you don't have to beat yourself up for sort of what you were saying as well. Like if you're not ready yet and you don't want to be part of the community and you need to take some time to sit by yourself and think about things, and you don't want to go to the marches and you don't want to wear the badges, that is okay. You can take all the time you need to support yourself first, so that when you do come out as an ally and a member of the community, you feel happy doing so.
And sometimes it's not just you don't want to, it's that you can't. I think coming out is obviously so personal, and you'll continue to come out for your whole life. Gender, sexuality, whatever. If you come out once and you're like, yes, I'm a lesbian, and then you stand by that identity for the rest of your life, that is fantastic. I came out as bi, then pan, then queer, then gay, then queer, then maybe gay again now. I don't know, I'm still figuring it out. But that has been a really fantastic thing for me, because I came out and was like, yeah, everything's flexible, and gender and sexuality are obviously meaningless. So you can do whatever you want and identify how you want, however you want throughout your whole life. And that's really fantastic. And to sit with that is really personal and takes a long time. I think what I was really lucky when I came out. I realised I had a crush on my friend on my way to uni. Cool, came home that night. I on that bus ride, messaged a bunch of my friends. I was like, I think I'm bi, and they were like, cool, thumbs up emoji. And truly no big deal. And then I came home, I asked my parents, I was like, what would you do if I brought home a girl? And my mum said, yeah, that's fine. My dad said, what did you have for dinner? Because that was more important. And I know that's really idealistic and beautiful, and I was brought up in a house where it would be wrong if I was homophobic. I was told from a young age that I was the one who was wrong if I thought that gay people were wrong. And that is really idealistic. I was really lucky to come from a working class background, and my parents, how they are and how they grew up, that to exist, but it comes from a place of privilege. But that doesn't mean that I came out really violently. Kind of was just I'm here and I'm queer kind of thing, but then that's not attainable for my whole world. I didn't come out to, and haven't come out to the majority of my extended family because I don't feel the need to, or I know I'm not going to be safe. And I don't want to lose those family members. And I'm not close to them, but I don't feel comfortable coming out to them until I have a girlfriend attached to my arm and being like, all right, let's deal with this when the time comes. And
Any other questions? There will be time to talk to our lovely panelists afterwards as well if you feel like it's a one-on-one type of question. I'm sure they're all open to conversations with you as well. I'm seeing nods, great, beautiful. But if anyone has a burning question, a desire, please speak now. Forever hold your peace. No? Excellent, great. I'm going to return to my chair. And if we could give a lovely round of applause to all these beautiful people here. And I would also like to end this panel with saying that this is just some of our experiences. This is not the end-all be-all of being a creative and queer person in the arts. There's a lot of diversity in groups that are not present on this panel, and it's very important for each of us in this room to go out and seek those experiences that aren't ours, because we can only learn from experiences that we don't live in. It's how we grow, that's what the world surely needs, all that kind of stuff. Jumping gears, Ed before mentioned the Queer Theatre workshops. Woo! This is the promo bit of the evening, and you all get a chance to plug your own social media events, whatever, but I'm going to start. On October 15th, at Acting Theatre are relaunching our Queer Theatre workshops, which you will find postcards that are on your chairs. They are open for anyone who is queer, identifying, LGBTQI+, whatever colour of the rainbow you seek and identify as, or are still questioning. It isn't just theatre, which is really cool. I think Ed mentioned we're delving into podcasts this season, and if you know me, I'm a bit of a podcast person. Woo! Audio art forms. So that starts on October 15th. We have a couple of things in the Feast Festival as well. I'm going to start talking and we're going to go down the line. Caitlin, where can people find you outside of this space?
You can find me at Caitlin Tate, or you can find Draw Swords at Draw Swords across all platforms. Draw Swords, aka me. I am hosting a couple of workshops in collaboration with Mindshare with Mental Health Week next week. You can find them on Mindshare's Facebook page as well as Draw Swords. It's free, you just have to sign up. Draw Swords is held on the last Wednesday of every month at Chateau de Local Store.
I was cheeky and did a bit of this in the chat, just some crap. If you're interested in following me on socials, my drag account is more active. That's Mr. Thomas T. Angel on Instagram. And if anyone is interested in seeing what Drag Kings are all about, we have a all Drag King review on the 12th of October at Ancient World. It's $10 entry, and that is a full Drag King event, which is pretty much unique in Australia. There's none of those anywhere else. So, and if anyone is at all interested in drag or doesn't want to get up and do it straight away, but is thinking about, I'll add you to the damn group chat, and we'd love to see some fresh faces. So yeah.
Follow Act Now Theatre on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Same with Make Space Adelaide. We have a variety of other programs that are queer focused, including Theatre of the Global Majority, which is it this fortnight?
Next fortnight.
Next fortnight on Thursday night. Here in this space, it's for people who are not white who are interested in theatre. Come along. We do all sorts of activities. Sometimes there's artists leading workshops. Sometimes we're doing play readings, and it's a great space to be.
I'm pretty sure Ed is leading the workshop next week. Maybe. Yeah.
My phone number is 0459. My socials are at Mark JT. JT is JYTEE. I do dumb jokes on there. Extremely dumb jokes. And I'm also on Radio Adelaide, on digital radio, online, and 101.5 FM. Every weekday from 3 to 5:30 as part of the range, and then every Thursday night from 10 to 11:30. Please listen.
If you want to follow me, but I don't understand why, you can at Kaelmoco, so CAELMOCO. I picked a bad handle on Instagram and Twitter, and you can also tune in to Pride and Prejudice and hear me there, or find me here, because I do also work it out now. Thank you to the audience for being a part of this panel. And to Out for Australia as well for co-hosting this event with us. And that's it. Have fun. Be merry. Get to know each other in a safe space. There's food and drinks in the background. And if anyone has the bathroom key, please hand it over now. watching all of you. Thank you.